Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Big fight news in the heavyweight division. Joseph Parker, the WBO interim champ who's been waiting for a shot at the undisputed champion Alexander Usyk, he will now be facing Fabio Wardley. So this will take place October the 25th at the O2 in London. And some of you could be forgiven for thinking, well, what happened to his title shot? Wasn't he meant to face Usyk? Wasn't he ordered to face Usyk? The answer is yes, he was ordered. That is still the order, but Usyk has been granted a reprieve, an injury extension for 3 months. So we'll cover that a little bit later in this video. But first, what we'll do is we'll go through the press release proper, and then to a little bit of reaction from the fighters themselves. And I've got to say, Fabio Wardley's Twitter account, in terms of the reaction, he's very dedicated to posting a lot of stuff on his Twitter, so good on him there. But in terms of the press release proper, we'll get started with that first. Joseph Parker to face Fabio Wardley at the O2, Saturday 25th October. It'll be on DAZN. All or Nothing, as it is being dubbed, is a battle for the interim world champions. WBO belt holder Parker going up against WBA equivalent Wardley. And Wardley did pick that up, I believe, in his last fight against Justis Huni, where it was on the line there. But I don't think it's actually technically some sort of weird unification, because for interim titles, it makes no sense to do so. This is for the interim WBO title. So it says a classic heavyweight showdown will take place at the O2, yada, yada, yada. We'll get straight down to the quotes. Frank Warren, he says, this will be a corker of a heavyweight clash, and one which will shine a huge light on the division. Fights like this one are as good as it can get outside of the champion defending his belts, and the sort we want to see happen. I would say, Fabio Wardley has just come off facing a fringe contender in Justis Huni. Huge opportunity for him, but you could argue there are potentially better fights out there for Joseph Parker. So there is some risk with Wardley as a puncher, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So you have Warren continuing, neither Joe or Fabio wanted to wait about and protect their positions, and credit to them both for this. I believe this is a genuine even money fight with a mesh of styles that I'm sure will be eye-catching and highly crowd-pleasing. We promise to keep firing up this heavyweight division, and we intend to keep all the contenders jockeying for position until the time comes for the ultimate prize. It's wonderful to be back at the O2 with All or Nothing. It will be a great show with some extremely competitive and meaningful fights on the undercard. This event will be the hottest ticket in town. Got some DAZN guy, but yeah, who cares about that? To the reaction of the fighters. So like I say, Wardley says big fights only. And this is a huge fight for him, the biggest of his career. A step up again from facing Justis Huni, where, let's face it, before he bailed himself out with a late stoppage, he was losing that fight and wide. But yeah, Fabio Wardley hyped about this. This is a huge opportunity for him. Really, it's a bit of a shot in the dark because it is effectively, as this post here that Wardley has reposted, he is one punch away from fighting Alexander Usyk. So he's been given the opportunity here. He's in the Frank Warren stable. And I guess if you're in entertaining fights or delivering entertaining finishes and you keep winning, that is going to lead to good places in the heavyweight division. So All or Nothing, Joseph Parker, he has also reacted to this one. There is going to be a press conference. It's in a number of hours after I record this video, so obviously not covering it. So what do I make of this fight? Well, I like it for a number of reasons. There is the opportunity. It's a puncher versus a boxer, Parker being the boxer puncher, Wardley being very athletic, but as we saw against Justis Huni, if you're a good fighter with good movement and tactics, you can outbox him. And I see Joseph Parker as an upgraded version of Justis Huni. And also, the chin is upgraded. Justis Huni was known heading into that fight with Fabio Wardley that there were question marks about the chin, and he'd also been dropped late in a fight with Kevin Lorena, one of his previous fights, and obviously history repeated for Huni, and he was bossing that fight something chronic. Fabio Wardley was looking very ordinary, but he did manage to sort of pull it out, landed the shot when he needed it, and got the win. At the end of the day, wins, and especially stoppage wins, will paper over the cracks. And I'm sure, as Frank Warren sort of alluded to in some of his statements, saying this is an even money fight, I make Joseph Parker a hot favourite. I think he has the skills and the ability to really make this fight his own. And perhaps this is also the reason that he's accepted this fight. Compared to, say, if he'd fought Agi Kabiel, for example, that's a much tougher fight in my estimation. Fabio Wardley is still on the come-up, still probably improving. Maybe his ceiling is almost reached, but I think Joseph Parker is operating at a different level. It doesn't mean that Wardley can't beat him, though, because obviously, as we saw again in that Huni fight, one punch changed it all, and he does carry power late into a fight. But I could see it being very similar to that fight. Maybe not identical, but I think very similar, where Joseph Parker is going to be bossing the fight, racking up the rounds, and I don't necessarily see a stoppage coming, but it could. Fabio Wardley has proven he's got a chin, he is durable, but he can be hurt. And Joseph Parker is likely to, when Fabio Wardley, for the first few rounds, when he is really bouncing around at his freshest and probably also the most dangerous, if Parker sees that off, as he has against big punchers like Zhang and also Deontay Wilder, he can go to work and really put rounds in the bank, try to break down Fabio Wardley, potentially get a stoppage in the second half of the fight late on. But I would hazard a guess that it's probably more likely to be a points win, but I wouldn't discount a stoppage late for Parker. I sort of see this as not even money, as Frank Warren says, but more in the sort of 80-20 range. Parker is on this really good run currently. And I guess in terms of why this fight and why now, well, if Usyk isn't available, he's given an extension. Joseph Parker needs some activity. He needs to be fresh and ready for when that fight or the next big fight is coming. Remembering he's only had a couple of minutes of action against Martin Bakole this year. Bakole came in out of shape and at last minute notice, and obviously got stopped in, a couple of rounds. So what happened to Alexander Usyk? Remembering there was an order from June, near the end of June, saying the mandatory was being called and they needed to make that fight. Had 30-odd days to do so, etc. What happened? Good story on Boxing 24/7 does actually sort of detail some of this. So Usyk's team submitted certified medical reports in August stating the champion wasn't fit to train. The WBO accepted the documents, though concerns were raised after a clip surfaced of Usyk kicking a ball with Andrei Shevchenko. Usyk's lawyers argued those clips were symbolic, not competitive, and unrelated to fight preparation. The WBO accepted that explanation, but set a strict 90-day deadline for Usyk to return. So what happens in the meantime? Parker fights. So you have Parker defending the WBO interim title. Usyk must fight Parker immediately after. Usyk fails to comply. Parker, or the October winner, will be elevated to full champion. So literally, if Wardley went in there and caused an upset, he could be elevated to be a full champion. And I think the other thing not to discount, and this is something that I've been talking about on Patreon, is that I think Alexander Usyk wants to become undisputed champion again. So I never thought he was going to be fighting again in 2025. I think, he said he needed a break and needed to come back. He didn't want to go straight into anything. But also, I could see him dropping that belt in the next couple of months. And don't be surprised if this fight gets upgraded to a full title fight, that it ends up being the drop belt is on the line. And then what we have is Alexander Usyk looking to face the winner in an undisputed champion. Usyk looking to create another piece of legacy. Remember, not so long ago, about a year ago, Usyk said he had 2 fights left. We've already had one of them with Daniel Dubois. I think he would look to try to create some more history if he can, and that would further separate him from his peers, but also further mark him down in his greatness in the heavyweight division. So, fair to say, I mean, I think I like the fight. It's interesting from the point of view that Joseph Parker needs the activity, needs to stay busy, he needs to get some good rounds in, and Fabio Wardley is an avenue to do that. But for Wardley, it's all to play for. You know, he will go in there with confidence, thinking, I can, even if I'm behind, I can land something. All I need is, you know, one or two punches to change the course of a fight, as it did against Justice Hooney. I think Parker is a hot favourite in this one, and for good reason. But you can't completely rule Fabio Wardley out, but I make Parker the hot favourite in this one. How about you? Let me know. What do you think of Usyk's injury, etc.? And do you think they'll end up fighting for the full title in this one? Let me know. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.